a line has been crossed, and Prince William is making Camilla's family pay the price. Following a shocking public humiliation directed at Prince Louis by one of Camilla's grandchildren, the future king has officially seized control of Balmoral. This isn't just a family argument, it is a brutal display of raw royal power. We are uncovering the exact insult that triggered the clash, and the devastating consequences for Camilla's inner circle, as William just proved who really rules the House of Windsor. The moment that started everything. Here is what nobody is telling you. This did not start with a legal document or a palace announcement. It did not start with a headline or a statement from a royal spokesman. It started the way most things inside this family start, quietly, in a room, with words that were never meant to travel as far as they did. But they traveled. And now everything is shifting. In the spring of 2025, at a gathering attended by members of the extended royal circle, one of Camilla's grandchildren made a remark about Prince Louis, not behind closed doors. Not in a whispered conversation that could be managed and buried before morning. It was said openly, in company, in the kind of setting where words move fast and land hard before anyone has a chance to contain them. The palace has not confirmed the specifics. They never do. That is not how this institution handles things that are too sensitive for official statements and too serious to ignore. But here is what multiple sources close to the family have made clear. The comment reached William, and the version that reached him was damaging enough that people inside his circle describe his response as something beyond anger, something quieter than that, more deliberate. The kind of stillness that does not shout or demand apologies or fire off calls to Camilla's office. The kind that simply begins, methodically and without fanfare, to act. Now, hold on to a question before we go any further, because we are going to come back to it, and the answer reshapes everything. Why Louis? Of all the people inside that palace, of all the targets, a careless remark could have landed on. Why does a comment directed at the youngest Wales child cut deeper than almost anything else possibly could? Keep that in the back of your mind, because by the time this section is over, you will understand exactly why William's reaction to this particular moment was never going to be a polite phone call. To understand the full weight of what happened, you first have to understand who Prince Louis is inside this story. Not on paper, but in the emotional architecture of William's world. Louis Arthur Charles was born on the 23rd of April, 2018, the third child of William and Catherine, and sixth in the line of succession. On the surface, in the cold mathematics of royal inheritance, he is the furthest from the crown of the three Welsh children. But that is not how his father sees him, and it never has been. Watch William at any public event where Louis is present, and you will notice something that no official statement could ever fully capture. The protectiveness and attentiveness, the way William positions himself close, always aware of where Louis is in the room. Louis is famously expressive, famously unfiltered, the kind of child who pulls extraordinary faces during Trooping the Color and makes the entire watching world laugh out loud. He is beloved precisely because he seems genuinely unguarded, real, and human, in a way that children raised inside royal households are almost never permitted to be.
He was seen pulling faces and dancing in his seat.
William treasures that quality in his youngest son with a fierceness that people close to the family describe as profound. Catherine even more so. When Catherine stepped back from public duties in early 2024 to undergo cancer treatment, it was her three children who became the quiet center of her recovery. She said as much herself when she returned to public life, speaking about George, Charlotte, and Louis as the reason she kept moving forward through one of the most frightening periods of her life. So when a comment about Louis surfaces, traced back through the social circles of Camilla's extended family, it does not register inside Kensington Palace as an awkward social misstep to be smoothed over at a family lunch. It registers as a line crossed. And William has spent his entire adult life carefully deciding what happens to people who cross those lines. Now, here is where the story deepens, because the comment did not happen in a vacuum, and the Parker Bowles family did not wander into this moment from nowhere. Since Charles married Camilla in April 2005, her relatives have moved through royal estates, royal households, and royal financial arrangements with a comfort and familiarity that most people watching from the outside never fully grasp. Camilla's sister Annabel Elliot spent nearly 2 decades on the payroll of the Duchy of Cornwall, employed as an interior designer, shaping the look and feel of properties across England, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. The payments ranged from £19,625 in quieter years to over £82,000 during larger renovation projects, all documented in the Duchy's annual financial accounts. 20 years, drawing a salary from a royal estate, not because of any competitive tender or formal selection process, but because her sister became the wife of the heir to the throne. Camilla's grandchildren, the children of Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, have grown up in the orbit of all of this, close enough to the estates, the rooms, the gatherings, the quiet rhythms of royal life, that the boundaries can sometimes feel invisible. Close enough that a child might say something about Prince Louis without fully registering the weight of who is standing nearby and what that person is capable of deciding. That is the mistake that was made, and William does not let mistakes like that go unpunished. The blood that never forgets. There is something you need to understand about Prince William before we go any further. He is not a man who reacts, he is a man who remembers. And there is a very long list of things he has filed away quietly over the years, things he has never spoken about publicly, things he has processed alone or with Catherine, things that have shaped every major decision he has made about who belongs in his world and who does not. The comment about Louis did not create William's feelings about the Parker Bowles family. It confirmed them. It gave a specific, undeniable shape to something that had been building for a very long time. To understand why, you have to go back, not to last spring, not to the duchy payroll or the estate politics. You have to go back to a boy growing up inside a palace where the adults around him were performing happiness while privately falling apart. William was born in June 1982. The first child of Charles and Diana, dropped immediately into the most scrutinized family on earth. By the time he was old enough to understand what was happening around him, his parents' marriage was already quietly disintegrating. The affair between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles was not a secret inside the family. It was a wound that everyone could see, and nobody was permitted to name out loud. Diana spoke about it in ways that reached her sons, even when she was trying to protect them. The loneliness she felt, the sense of being undermined inside her own home, the knowledge that her husband loved someone else, all of it filtered through into the atmosphere of William's childhood in ways that left permanent marks. In 1994, Charles confirmed the affair in a televised interview watched by millions. William was 12 years old. 3 years later, Diana was dead in a Paris tunnel, and William was 15, walking behind his mother's coffin through the streets of London while the world watched and wept. He has never spoken in detail about what those years cost him. He does not need to. The decisions he has made since becoming the Duke of Cornwall tell that story more clearly than any interview ever could. Now, here is the question I want you to hold on to, because we are going to answer it before this section is done. Is what William is doing now about protecting the monarchy? Or is it about something older and more personal than any institution could contain? Because the two things are not mutually exclusive. And understanding that is the key to understanding every move William has made since September 2022. The public version of William's relationship with Camilla is one of careful, disciplined civility. He attended his father's wedding to her in April 2005. He interacts with her at official engagements with warmth that appears genuine. He has never made a public statement against her. By every outward measure, he has handled an extraordinarily difficult family situation with a maturity that most people in his position would have struggled to sustain. But there is a distinction, and it matters enormously in this story, between accepting Camilla as part of the family and accepting her relatives as permanent fixtures in his professional and personal world. Camilla is his father's wife. He has made his peace with that reality because he had to, and because, by all accounts, he genuinely respects the stability she has brought to Charles in his later years. That is one thing. The Parker Bowles family, enjoying decades of salaried access to royal estates, accumulating proximity and privilege on the strength of that marriage, is something else entirely, and William has always known the difference. The comment about Louis removed any remaining ambiguity about where the line falls. Royal commentator and biographer Robert Hardman, who has spent years studying William's approach to the institution, has noted that the future king operates with a long memory and a clear sense of what the monarchy owes to the people around it, versus what it is simply being asked to absorb for the sake of keeping the peace. William is not sentimental about access. He is not moved by the argument that because something has always been done a certain way, it should continue to be done that way. He is, by the accounts of people who work closely with him, deeply pragmatic and almost unsettlingly patient when it comes to making changes he has already decided are necessary. The removal of Annabel Elliot from the duchy payroll after William inherited the estate in September 2022 was the first visible signal of that pragmatism in action. 20 years of employment ended without a press release, without a public dispute, without a single official word. Just a name that disappeared from the duchy's financial records and was noticed by royal watchers who scrutinized those documents with the kind of forensic attention most people reserve for something far more consequential. Except that in royal terms, it was consequential because it announced something the palace would never announce directly. William had taken over, and the era of inherited loyalties, of jobs and access flowing through Camilla's connections rather than through William's own choices was finished. The comment about Louis did not start that process. It accelerated it, and the acceleration has a very specific address. 53,680 acres of the Scottish Highlands, sitting patient and ancient beneath skies that have watched this family for generations. Balmoral is next. Balmoral and what it actually means. Most people hear the word Balmoral and think of a postcard. Misty Scottish hills, a castle rising out of the Highlands, a family gathering around a fireplace, somewhere deep inside stone walls that have absorbed 2 centuries of royal secrets. It is the image the palace has carefully cultivated for generations. Romantic, remote, ancient, the kind of place that exists outside the noise of modern life, and inside something older and more permanent than any news cycle could reach. But that postcard version is not the whole picture, not even close. And to understand what William's withdrawal of access to Balmoral actually means for Camilla's family, you have to understand what Balmoral really is, not symbolically, but financially, legally, and in terms of the raw private power it represents inside the British royal family. Here is the question that anchors everything in this section, and it is one the palace has never wanted asked directly. Who actually owns Balmoral, and what happens to that ownership when Charles is gone? The answer is more significant than most people have ever been told. Balmoral Castle and its surrounding estate cover 53,680 acres of the Scottish Highlands. It is not crown property. It is not managed by a government committee or administered on behalf of the nation. It is privately owned, inherited personally, passed from monarch to monarch, the way a family home passes between generations, except that the home in question spans an area larger than many small countries. Prince Albert originally purchased the estate for Queen Victoria in 1852. It passed to Edward VII, then through successive monarchs until it reached Queen Elizabeth II, who inherited it from her father, King George VI. When Elizabeth died at Balmoral on the 8th of September 2022, the estate passed directly and automatically to King Charles III. No auction, no legal negotiation, no parliamentary process. One monarch died, another inherited, and Balmoral moved with the crown as it always has. Forbes estimated Queen Elizabeth's personal fortune at $500 million at the time of her death, a figure that included Balmoral, Sandringham in Norfolk, her private jewelry collection, and decades of accumulated personal investments. The combined wealth of the royal family across land, property, and financial holdings has been valued at a minimum of £18 billion. Balmoral sits at the emotional and symbolic center of it all, the place where the family retreats from the world, where decisions are made in private, where the boundaries between official monarchy and personal family life dissolve completely. And right now, it belongs to Charles. He and Camilla use it as a private retreat during the summer months. Her family has had access to those grounds, those rooms, those long Highland walks that the royals have taken for generations. That access has felt natural, embedded, almost permanent to the people who have enjoyed it. Almost permanent is not the same as actually permanent, and that distinction is about to matter enormously. When Charles dies, Balmoral does not stay with Camilla. It passes to William automatically, legally, completely. As personally owned royal property, it transfers to the new monarch, and at that moment, Camilla's position changes in ways that are both profound and irreversible. She will no longer be the woman of that house. She will be a guest, present only at William's invitation, on William's terms, for however long William decides that invitation should stand. Now ask yourself honestly, given everything that has happened over the past 2 years, given Annabel Elliott's removal from the duchy payroll, given the appointment of William's own people to estate management roles, given the comment about Louis and the cold, deliberate response it appears to have triggered, do you genuinely believe William will extend that invitation warmly and unconditionally? Because the people inside that palace are already asking the same question, and they are not optimistic about the answer. The significance of Balmoral goes beyond the financial dimension, though that dimension alone is staggering. This is the estate where Elizabeth drew her final breath. It is where the royal family has gathered every summer for generations, where prime ministers travel for private audiences away from London, where grief and celebration and the most intimate family arguments have all taken place behind walls that keep every secret. Access to Balmoral is not simply access to a property, it is access to the inner life of the monarchy itself, to the conversations that shape decisions, to the proximity that turns relatives into insiders and outsiders into people who are managed from a careful distance. Camilla's family has been on the inside of that world for 20 years. The grandchildren have known these estates as part of the backdrop of their lives. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes have moved through these social circles with the ease of people who never had to wonder whether they belonged. That ease was always borrowed, always dependent on Charles's reign continuing, and on the goodwill of the man waiting behind him remaining intact. The comment about Louis has apparently tested that goodwill past a point. William was willing to absorb quietly. And Balmoral, patient and immovable in the Scottish hills, is waiting for the moment it becomes his entirely to decide what to do with. That moment, according to sources close to the family, may be closer than anyone in the Parker Bowles circle has allowed themselves to fully reckon with. The withdrawal begins. Here is the thing about the way William operates that most people consistently underestimate. He does not announce his decisions. He does not call a press conference, issue a statement through a palace spokesman, or give an interview in which he explains his thinking in careful, measured language. He acts quietly, deliberately, and in a sequence that only becomes visible when you step back far enough to see the full pattern. By the time most people notice what he has done, the decision is already complete, and the consequences are already in motion. That is precisely what is happening right now. With Camilla's family and their access to the world, William is inheriting piece by piece. The question this section is going to answer is one that royal watchers have been circling for months without quite landing on it directly. How does a future king remove people from his world without ever saying a single word about it publicly? The answer is already written in the Duchy of Cornwall's financial records, in the staffing decisions William has made since September 2022, and in the social architecture of who is now inside his circle and who has been quietly, methodically moved to the outside of it. Start with what we already know, because the precedent matters enormously for understanding what comes next. When William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall on the 8th of September 2022, the moment his grandmother died and his father became king, one of the first things that changed was the name on the payroll. Annabel Elliott, Camilla's younger sister, had been employed by the duchy for nearly 20 years. Her work as an interior designer had shaped properties across England, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. The payments were documented publicly in the duchy's annual financial accounts, ranging from £19,625 in quieter years to over £82,000 during more intensive renovation periods. And then, William took over, and her name disappeared from the records without a single word of public explanation. Royal expert Emily Andrews, commenting on the removal at the time, noted plainly that Annabel had been working across duchy properties for years, but that since William became Duke of Cornwall, she was taken off the payroll, adding that the change caused significant ripples inside royal circles. Ripples was perhaps too gentle a word for what it actually signaled to the people paying close attention, because William did not simply remove Annabel Elliott. He replaced her with his own people, specifically Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Vance, both connected to William's inner circle and known to him through his own relationships rather than anything inherited from his father's marriage. The message required no translation for anyone inside the system. This is William's duchy, populated by William's choices, operating according to William's priorities, and the era of appointments flowing through Camilla's family connections is finished. That was the first move, visible only to those reading Duchy financial documents, with the kind of attention most people never bother to apply. But it established a template that William has been following ever since, and the template is now being applied to something considerably larger than a payroll entry. Sources close to the Wales household have indicated that in the months following the incident involving Louis, conversations about Balmoral access have taken on a noticeably different tone inside Kensington Palace. Where previously the assumption was that Camilla's family would continue to enjoy the kind of informal access to royal estates that had naturally accumulated over 2 decades of her marriage to Charles, that assumption is no longer shared by those around William. One source familiar with the internal discussions described it in terms that are worth sitting with for a moment. The understanding used to be that these things continued as they were unless something changed them. Something has changed them. What that means in practical terms is a gradual, undeclared withdrawal of privileges that were never formally granted and therefore cannot be formally revoked. Invitations that previously arrived without question will simply stop arriving. Access that felt embedded and permanent will begin to feel less certain. The warmth that made proximity to these estates feel natural will cool, not dramatically, not with any confrontation that could be reported or denied, but in the quiet, undeniable way that temperature drops before a long winter. This is how William works, and it is worth understanding clearly before we move on, because it explains why Camilla's family may be among the last to fully register what is happening to them. William has no interest in a visible confrontation with Camilla over her family's access to Balmoral or any other estate. A confrontation would generate headlines, require palace responses, and force Charles into the impossible position of choosing publicly between his wife and his son during a reign that is already carrying more weight than anyone anticipated. William is too strategic and too patient for that. He will simply allow the transition of power to proceed at its natural pace, making his preferences clear through appointments and access, and the quiet social signals that people inside royal circles understand immediately. And then, when the moment arrives and Balmoral is fully his, the decisions will already have been made long before anyone outside the palace walls has a chance to comment on them. Camilla sold her private retreat, Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, in recent years. The property she had described as her personal escape, the place she called the best therapy in the world, is gone. Her long-term property options are narrowing in ways that make the question of Balmoral access not a hypothetical, but an urgent and very personal reality. And William is already deciding the answer: Catherine's role and what comes next. There is a woman in this story who has been quietly underestimated from the very beginning, not by William, not by the people who work closely with her inside Kensington Palace, but by the wider world, which spent years viewing her primarily through the lens of her wardrobe choices and her smile at official engagements, missing almost entirely the sharpness and strategic clarity operating just beneath that composed, polished surface. Catherine, Princess of Wales, is not simply William's partner in this transition. She is its co-architect, and her relationship with Camilla's family, always more layered than the official warmth of public appearances suggested, has become one of the most consequential dynamics inside the palace, as William's authority continues to grow. This section is going to answer a question that most royal coverage has danced around without ever landing on directly. When William becomes king, what role does Catherine actually play in deciding who belongs inside that world and who gets left behind? Because the answer is not what Camilla's family has been assuming, and the gap between what they have assumed and what is actually coming may be the most significant miscalculation anyone in that circle has made. Start with 2024, because that year changed Catherine in ways that the public registered emotionally without always understanding structurally. In January 2024, Catherine underwent abdominal surgery at the London clinic. The recovery was longer and more serious than the palace initially indicated, and in March of that year, she released a video statement confirming that cancer had been detected following the surgery and that she had begun a course of preventative chemotherapy. She stepped back from public duties for the better part of 8 months, one of the longest absences from royal life by a senior working royal in recent memory. The world watched and worried and speculated, and Catherine processed all of it with a privacy and dignity that struck most people who followed it as genuinely remarkable. But here is the part of that story that matters most for understanding where we are now. when Catherine returned to public life in the second half of 2024, she was different. Not diminished, not fragile, not the softened version of herself that serious illness sometimes produces in people who have been through something frightening. She was sharper, more deliberate, more visibly certain about what she valued and what she was no longer willing to simply absorb for the sake of keeping surfaces smooth. People close to the Wales household noticed it immediately. One insider described it plainly, saying that Catherine came back from her illness knowing exactly what she was there for and exactly what she was not going to tolerate anymore. That clarity, forged in one of the most difficult years of her life, is now directly shaping how she and William are approaching the transition of power, and specifically, who they are choosing to bring into their future and who they are allowing to drift out of it. Catherine's relationship with Camilla has always been described publicly in terms of mutual respect and careful civility. The two women appear together at official events, with the kind of warm professionalism that palace communications teams spend considerable energy cultivating. But sources who have observed the dynamic closely over the years describe something more complicated beneath that surface, a relationship defined less by genuine closeness than by the careful management of proximity. Two women in very different positions within the same institution, occupying the same spaces without ever fully occupying the same world. What has shifted is the balance of that dynamic. Camilla's position depends entirely on Charles's reign continuing, and on the goodwill of the generation waiting in his wake. Catherine's position only grows stronger as that transition accelerates. She is already functioning as a genuine strategic partner in decisions about the Duchy of Cornwall, about the public face of the monarchy during Charles's illness, and about the long-term direction of an institution that William intends to reshape fundamentally before his reign is a decade old. When William becomes king, Catherine will move into a role that carries more active authority and more visible influence than anything Camilla has been either willing or positioned to deliver. Now hold on to this, because it connects directly to Balmoral and to everything the Parker Bowles family stands to lose. When Catherine becomes queen consort, the estates pass with the crown. Sandringham in Norfolk and Balmoral in the Scottish Highlands, both privately owned by the monarch, both carrying the accumulated weight of generations of royal private life, will become hers and William's to manage entirely as they see fit. The decisions about who is invited, who is accommodated, who is made to feel welcome, and who is made to feel the precise opposite of welcome, those decisions will belong to Catherine as much as they belong to William. And Catherine, who came back from cancer with a renewed and unambiguous sense of what she was there for, is not a woman who makes those decisions carelessly or sentimentally. The question that Camilla's family should be asking themselves right now, and that royal watchers are beginning to ask openly, is a simple one. In the world that William and Catherine are building together, where does the Parker Bowles family actually fit? Not in the world that Charles created, not in the arrangements and access and informal privileges that accumulated over 20 years of Camilla's marriage, but in the new world, William's world, where access is earned through personal loyalty to him and Catherine, rather than inherited through proximity to the previous generation. The honest answer, based on everything that has happened since September 2022, is that the fit is becoming harder to identify with each passing month. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, has built a genuinely independent public profile as a food writer and author, largely separate from the royal world his mother inhabits. Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, has maintained a lower public profile, connected to the royal circle, primarily through her mother's position, rather than through any direct relationship with William or Catherine. Neither of them has the kind of personal bond with the Wales family that would survive the transition of power on its own merits, without Camilla's marriage to Charles as the foundation holding everything in place. And the grandchildren, including the child whose comment about Louis appears to have accelerated all of this, exist in that royal adjacent world entirely because of Camilla's position. When that position changes, when Charles is gone and William sits on the throne with Catherine beside him, the gravitational pull that has kept the Parker Bowles family within the orbit of these estates, these rooms and these invitations will weaken in ways that no amount of family history can counteract. Catherine, standing at Windsor Castle in early 2025, wearing a crimson gown, her recovery complete, her presence radiating the kind of quiet authority that comes from having been tested and having held, was not simply a public appearance. It was a statement. The woman who will own everything that Camilla's family has spent 20 years treating as familiar territory is standing up, fully recovered, fully present, and fully aware of exactly what she is walking into. The power has shifted, the estates are waiting, and the woman who will ultimately decide who is welcome at Balmoral is not Camilla. She has never been less uncertain about anything in her life. Here is the truth that this entire story keeps returning to. Power within the British royal family does not transfer with a speech, a ceremony, or a headline. It transfers in payroll records that nobody reads, in invitations that quietly stop arriving, in a name removed from a financial document, in a child